might be tired of hearing this one, but Mo didn't get to hear it, and as Ron has demonstrated, what Mo wants, Mo gets. So I turn 50 next month, and I grew into a fishing family, so that's a lot of years of fishing. So I wrote this one. It's called These Hands. These hands are soaked in the blood of almost 50 years of salmon. Run after run, season after season, they've cradled dying flesh, removed mesh after mesh after mesh. And I know, it's a weird dichotomy, taking the life of something you say you love, not to ease pain, but for your own gain. And I know we feed the world. And I know we feed ourselves, but that matters not to this fish. Its journey home interrupted. These hands are soaked in the blood of almost 50 years of salmon. I feel like I should feel worse, feel like I should feel remorse, but it is a life I enjoy. And the salmon are dying, whether on the deck of my skiff or the bed of the river. Either way, they will nourish. Another generation will flourish, and I will always cherish the life they provide. These hands are soaked in the blood of almost 50 years of salmon. May I never take them for granted, the salmon or these hands.
I like how a lot of what's been spoken and sung here has been spiritual and affirming, but I'd like to propose that to counterbalance that, occasionally there should be something small-minded, and who better than me? When you hear you've been selected to read your stuff at the show, wow, fame and fortune are sure to come soon. No more of this average Joe. Then you hear there's a place to sell books. You can put yours on display for free. The wheels start turning around in your head, how to maximize this. Let's see, you got 2 titles. They're ripe to take off. Question, how many to bring? 20 of each? 50 or more? Don't want to run out, that's the thing. You get to the shack good and early, find a likely spot on the shelf, set out 20 times 2 makes 40 in all. Then start to question yourself, what if they all sell? Well, you can check in later tonight to restock. But when you stop by before your last set, they're all still there. This is a shock. But wait, it makes sense no one's here. They're all out taking the poetry in. Tomorrow, when they've got spare time, that's when the rush is sure to begin. Long as you're here, you put out 5 more of each. Then go read your work, party up some, go back to your room, dream of tomorrow, buyers going berserk. You test your willpower all the next day, try to stay far away from the store. Late at night, go in to reap your bonanza. Find 2 copies are gone, and no more. 2 books sold all weekend? Does this mean you suck? Your audience applause sure seems sincere. Driving home through the cold winter rain, you're unable to figure out what's going on here, but that's how it goes in the poetry biz. You either fly high or you lose. Next year, maybe you'll soar, but for now, you got a sad case of the Gear Shack blues.
Doug Rhodes, you're up. Tella, Will, Susan and Marie Rose.
Okay, thank you guys all for coming again. This is my favorite part of the Fisher Poets thing because, you know, as you all know, when you have to look at your schedule and how are you going to see everybody in this way, you get to hear everybody give a poem. And on the way in, Clem autographed a book and gave it to me. That's pretty cool. We got to, how cool is it to write a song and sing a song and have everybody singing it with you in here? You know, that's just some cool stuff. My poetry has always been kind of, everything has to rhyme, and if it doesn't, you guys inspire me. I still can't write any of that other stuff, and I can't get it real deep because I wrote a poem about my dog dying, and I never finished it. I get choked up after the first verse, you know. So I got to read stuff to myself, and then I think, oh, back that one off. Let's sing something else or talk about something else. But today, I decided instead of reading one of my poems, I stayed at a hotel right down here, and man, very exclusive hotel. They gave you stationery, so I got this here. And this is my shout out to the Fisher Poets. And holy crap, I don't have my glasses. Anybody have any? Oh, thank you. So talk about the graying of the fleet. Here we go. Okay. I'll never read like Gino. His style is pretty great. He'll close his eyes and lean back and belt out that figure eight. I know I'll never deliver it quite like Ron. That bar is pretty steep. But last night he got a little nervous when they started talking about some sheep. I know I'll never perform like Joel. His words pop and zip and snap. And at the Fisher Poets gathering, he's the closest thing to rap. I know I'll never be like Steve. He can really spiel it. And when he belts out his poem called Chrome, you know the room can feel it. Everybody's different. You don't have to make a choice. Just try to be yourself and perform it in that voice. So thank you, Fisher Poets. Now that our week is done, I'm looking forward to next year because damn, I sure had fun.
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning last night in the Riverwalk lobby. We were talking about love here at Fisher Poets and the exchange between the person here and all of the people here. And what I would like to do is share with you, audience members, volunteers, organizers, and Fisher Poets, words that are not mine, but they are the most majestic wordsmith that we have yet to get up on the Fisher Poets stage. One of them, Megan Emerson, currently piloting a tugboat in Idaho, I believe, and she blessed us with permission to share her words, written after last year's Fisher Poets. I was sitting in a bakery earlier this month, wedged behind a little wooden table, listening to a fiddler and a guitarist make music. These are people I know. I've listened to them for years, and I recognize the tunes they play. It's a little like hearing the opening notes of a CD you've kept in your car for a decade. You know how it goes, how the players gently bend the songs into the shape of their own bodies, and you love it with a fierce and quiet sort of reverence. It's the same feeling I get once a year when I stand in a bar on the Oregon coast, wedged between the bodies of sinewy people in plaid, and listen to them recite poetry about the ocean. These are also people I know. I grew up with them, with their cadences and slang. It's a little like hearing the opening lines to a story your parents tell across the kitchen table. You know how it goes, how the boats were floated and foundered, and you don't want them to stop, even though it always makes you cry. So the listening got me thinking that being an audience is a sacred goddamn duty. It's paying tribute to hours and years of people's lives. It's being handed a tiny glass of the spirit they've distilled out of it all, and feeling it burn and catch fire as it slides down your throat. I don't need to be a musician or a poet. I don't need to stand on a stage. What I need is to be there when the glass is handed around, as the room sways and gasps and moves its feet, to witness an artist make a moment in time, ring out like a bell, and fall silent. Thank you, Megan Emerson. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. There's an old Irish saying that I made up last week. I'm mostly Irish and old, so everything I have is an old Irish saying. But this is actually true. There's a saying, a story is a seed, but if it finds good ground in a willing ear and an open heart, it'll root and shoot and flower and fruit right in front of our eyes. And I want to thank the audiences, because you have been the ground of these stories, these poems, and these songs. And so thank you for the incredible generosity of listening and bringing these things to life. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Finn McCool was a legendary Irish warrior and a poet. And he lived by the old code, and the old code was never, ever give a sword to a man who can't dance. Never give a sword to a man who doesn't have poems in his heart and old tales in his brain. Because a man like that could become a great warrior, but he also might never put the sword down. And so the warriors of the Fianna, the great band of the Fianna, had to know tomes of poetry, as well as the arts of fighting. And when Finn was a youth, he learned his poems. He learned rhythm and rhyme and the cunningness of language by living with the ancient venerable poet Finnecas, who lived at the banks of the River Boyne. And every day the old Finnecas would go out and he'd cast his nets out and pull them in and cast them out and pull them in. You know what it's like, cast them out and pull them in. But one day, he pulled in a huge salmon. And Finn McCool came running down to help him pull it out, and he pulled it onto the bank, and Finnecas said, "Finn, this is the fish I've been fishing for 7 long years." And Finn says, "You've been fishing for 7 years for one fish?" "It's not just any fish, Finn. For haven't I told you where knowledge and wisdom lie? It lies at the depths of things, you see. And the salmon lives at the deepest of the oceans, and this salmon has lived at the deepest well at the deepest ocean. And around that well there's 9 hazel trees, and the nuts of the knowledge grow on that tree, and the nuts fall into the well. And who do you think has been swimming around eating all that knowledge all these years? That fish. And you see, it's been rumored whoever would catch that fish and take one bite of its flesh would have knowledge of the past and insight into the present and even see the shapes of the future. And don't you think a man like that could make a poem or two?" "Oh, I do, sir." "Then do this for me, will you, boy? Take the fish now and cook it up. For I'm wet and cold, I need to rest. Take the fish and cook it up and tell me when it's done, but don't be eating a morsel of my fish." "Sir, I'd never do that. You know that." And he wouldn't ever do that. But here's what happened. You know, you cook salmon. He was cooking it on the fire there, and a blister rose on its flesh. And so he took his thumb and he smoothed the blister, but when he did, the hot salmon oil, well, it doused his thumb. And he did way back then and there what any of us right here would do. He put it into his mouth, and like that, all the knowledge of that salmon just shot through Finn McCool. And with the knowledge of the salmon of knowledge, he came and went to become the greatest leader of the Fianna Ireland had ever known. And he ushered in an age of glory and beauty in which the making of poems was more important than the making of wars. It was a time when the Fianna served the High King, but they worshipped the goddess Erin. The goddess Erin, her body was the earth of Ireland, her blood the streams, and her breath its holy, holy winds. So, pay attention the next time you catch a salmon. Thank you.